Okay, so let's read question 843, guess the word. You're given an array of unique strings, word list, where word list I is 6 letters long, and one word in this list is chosen as secret. You may call master.guess on the word to guess a word. The guessed word should have type string and must be from the original list with 6 lowercase letters. This function returns an integer type representing the number of exact matches, the value, and the position of your guesses to the secret word. Also, if your guess is not in the given word list, it'll return -1 instead. For each test case, you have exactly 10 guesses to guess the word. At the end of any number of calls, if you have made 10 or fewer calls to master.guess, and at least one of these guesses was secret, then you pass the case. Okay? So let's look at the examples given to us now. We're given a secret of this word right here and a word list with 4 different words. The number of guesses, like they said right here, is it's always going to be 10, correct? Right here they said that it's always going to be 10. So now they guessed the correct word, but let's look at the explanation. So the first guess was this word with 6 A's, and it returns a -1 because A is not in this word list, right? The next time they guess this word right here, and it does exist inside of this word list, but it's also actually the secret. So when they do that, they get 6 matches since all the letters are in the right position. Next, they have master.guess of this word right here, and this returns 3 because that word has 3 matches, which are the C right here. So you compare this C, the first index, with that in the secret, and then the last 2 right here, which match the last 2 Z's right there. So that's 3. When you do master.guess of this word, it returns 2 because the Z's at the end match that of the secret. None of the other letters match or are in the same position. And lastly, when you have this word right here, it returns a 4 because the letter at the second index and the first index is the 0th index, the second index, and the last 2 indexes are equal to the secret. So it'll pass the case because in the second guess that they made, they got all 6 of the letters correct. Okay, and then the next one, again, they try it and same thing. They're given the secret word right here and 2 words in the word list. They guessed the secret word correctly because let's say you picked Khalid as your first word. It doesn't match it, but it still exists inside of the list. And then the next only other word left is Hamada, and so that should return the right word. Okay, so let's go into how to actually solve this question then. Okay, so I'll be going over question 843 here, called Guess the Word on Leetcode. I've laid out all the steps required to solve this question, and I'll be going over step by step how to solve them. So the first step is to create 2 variables here, one to keep track of the number of guesses attempted, and the other to save the number of letters guessed returned from master.guess. Then we loop until you reach the total number of guesses possible, or the guess count for a word is equal to 6. When the guess count is equal to 6, that means all the letters in that word are equal to the secret that was given to us. Then we pick a random word from a word list. Here we don't have to pick a random word. You can pick the first word or the last word, but it's just better and better odds for you to just pick a random word. So you can use a library called random on Python and do just random.choice and then just pass in the list that we're working with, which is word list. Then we do a master.guess on this random word that we just got. And master.guess returns a value for the number of letters that are guessed correctly in the right position. So when we get that, we save that value. Then we loop through each word in the word list and check if each character in that word matches with that of the random word you picked. So the random word that we picked using random.choice, we check if each character from every word of the word list matches that. And then we increment a variable if it does, and at the end of it, if both the master.guess count that we got up here after we do a master.guess and the variable that you just created and you incremented are equal to each other, then we add this new word to a new list that we create. Once this loop ends, after going over all the different words in word list, you set the word list equal to the list that you just created. That means you'll minimize the list. Let's say you start off with four words. You'll be maybe down to 3 words if all 3 of those had the same letter in the same position as the one that you guessed. Next, you increment the total number of guesses by 1, and then you repeat the problem. And in the next iteration, if, for instance, your total guess count, which is only at 1, so that won't be met, but then let's say the first time you guessed you got all 6 letters to match, then you know that it's the right letter, it's the right word, and so you break out of this loop. Okay, so let's try solving this question using the example that was given to us. So secret is given with this word right here. We're given a word list with 4 different words and the number of guesses being 10. Now the variables from here until the end are the ones I initialized, and I is equal to the number of guesses I've made so far. That value has to always be less than the number of guesses that are given to us, total number of guesses given to us. A random word here is a random word that we choose from the word list that we're given, and then after doing master.guess on that random word, I retrieve the letters guessed. Let's say we pick this word right here and compare it to the secret. Letters.guess is going to give you the value 3, right? Next, word list is where we loop through every single word in that word list and then every letter in that word and retrieve the letters matched from that. So that's this. So retrieve the letters matched, and if the letters matched is equal to the letters guessed, then we add that word into candidates. If not, then we just increment I. So just to give you a better feel of it, I will go through this example and solve it. So let's say we have I is equal to 0 and letters guessed is equal to 0, and I do a random dot, I have a while loop when I start off, right? So my while loop is going to make sure that I is less than the number of guesses that I'm given, and my letters guessed is not equal to 6. If it's equal to 6, that means I've guessed the right word before, and I should break out of this. I enter this loop because I have 0 and 0, and I get the random word from the word list. Now I'm getting a random word, but you could get the first word or the last word from a list. In my case, I think it's just a better odd. It has better odds to just pick a random word as opposed to picking the first or the last word every single time. So I'm using a library called random and doing a random.choice on the word list. Let's say I receive this word right here. So I'll add that into my random word. Right? That's my random word I chose. Now I do a master.guess on this random word, and notice that, like before, there's only C on the first index and the 2 Z's on the last 2 indexes that match the secret. So my letters guessed are going to become 3. Now I loop through every word in word list. In my case, I'll start off with this first word, and I compare it with the random word and every letter in there to see if they're the same or in the right position. So A gets compared to C, C gets compared to C. These two are in the right position, so letters matched becomes a 1. Then you move on. C is not equal to B, K is not equal to A, Z is equal to Z, and Z is equal to Z. So it goes up until 2 and then 3, right? Now you compare the letters matched with the letters guessed. If they're equal, then you add that word into candidates. So in my case, they are equal, and so I add that word into this candidates list. Now, I move on, go on to the next word. Now the next word is the same word that was guessed initially, but we notice that this does not get added into candidates because C is the same as C. C is equal to C, or B is equal to B, A is equal to A, Z is equal to Z, and Z is equal to Z. This means that all 6 letters matched. So in this case, we're going to have 6 as our value. And then comparing the letters matched with the letters guessed, I notice that the two values are not equal. So this word is not going to get added into candidates. Moving on, I go into the next word, and I notice that this is going to give me 2 because E is not equal to E, I is not equal to C, O is not equal to B, W is not equal to A, and then the last 2 Z's are equal to one another in the random word. So in this case, my letters matched are equal to 2. Comparing the letters matched with letters guessed is going to tell me that this word, this third word in my word list, is also not going to be added into candidates. Last word that we move on to now is the same as before. The first 4 letters, actually no, the A here, the first 4 letters don't match anything inside a random word, and then the last 2 do. So in this case as well, we will be left with 2 as our letters matched. Comparing that with the letters guessed, we notice that it's not equal. So this word right here is not going to get added as well. Now, at the end of this loop, we want to make our word list equal to candidates. So when we do that, we get rid of these 3 words because only the one word which had the same number of letters guessed equal to random word gets added in there. Now we add the A, C, C, K, Z, Z into it, and we also increment I by 1. Now we go back to the top of the loop and compare if I is less than 10. I is less than 10, and we also know that the letters guessed is not equal to 6, so it's only equal to 3. So we keep moving forward and we do another random choice on a word list. In this case, there's only one value in the word list, and so this word is the only word that will be added into it. We compare this word with the secret using master.guess, and that gives us the value 6 because all 6 values, so A, C, C, K, Z, and Z are the same as the one in the word list now. So we get the value 6, and then we loop through the word list now to compare every word in the word list with the random word. There's only one word in the word list, so we will be comparing every letter in there. I'll update this as well, the random word is actually A, C, C, K, Z, and Z. That's the only random word that we have now. So we compare the value in the word list, the only one left, with the random word, and we notice that the value is actually 6. The letters that match are 6 because it's the same word. Comparing that with the letters guessed, we notice that it's the same value, so the same value gets added into candidates. Candidates stays the same because we're adding the same value in there. Now the loop is over because we've gone through all the words in the word list. So we make word list equal to candidates. In this case, it's going to be the same. So word list is going to be equal to this word right here, and we increment I by 1. So I becomes 2 now. Then we go back to the top of the loop, and we notice that I is again less than the number of guesses, which is 10. The letters guessed now is actually 6, and we have to make sure that the letters guessed is not equal to 6. In this case it is, so we break out of this loop and we return true. That means our secret word has been guessed correctly. So let's move on to actually solving this question and writing the code out. Okay, so let's start solving this question. I'm going to initialize a few variables up here. I, which is equal to 0, which is the number of guesses I've made so far. The letters guessed, which is equal to 0 as well. That's the number. That's a number we get after doing master.guess on this word. I'll also initialize num guesses to 10. That is the value given to us to make sure this is the value up here that's given to us. In this case, 10 is the number of guesses you can have at max. Then I'll go into a while loop here. So while my I, which my I should be less than the number of guesses. But we also have to make sure that my letters guessed is not equal to 6. If my letters guessed is equal to 6, that means all the letters were correctly guessed on the random word, and so we should break out of the loop. And we're done with this problem since we guessed the secret. Now the next thing would be to get the random word from the word list. So we can do random word is equal to random.choice, which is one of the libraries in Python, and then you pass in the list that you want to find the random word in. Let's say we find a random word, and now we want to find the letters guessed. So letters guessed that we initialized up before has to be equal to master.guess of this random word. Now the next thing is to initialize this new list that we will be using. You want to initialize it inside of this loop because we're going to be erasing it every single time after we loop over it, just so we want to get rid of all the previous values in there. So you can do candidates, which is equal to an empty list. Now, since we have all the necessary items, we just loop over the word list that we were given to check if the letters are in the right position. So we'll do a loop over the word in word list, and for every value, we will check if, for every word, we will check if the letters guessed is equal to this new function we will be creating of the word and the random word. Then we know that candidates.append word. So just to go over it, here I'm checking, I'm looping through every word in the word list, and then I'll be doing this function here to get the characters that match the random words characters, right? I'll be creating that function right here. I'll just to explain it, but we have this function here which takes in word and a random word, and this is going to be initializing a new variable which is called letters matched, and then we loop over every single value in the word, so every single character. So for I in a range of 6, I'm just going to do a range of 6 because that's the max number of letters you can have in this word. So in the range of 6, and if the word at I is equal to the random word at I, then we know that they're correct, so we do letters matched plus equals 1. Now after all of this is done, we just want to return the letters matched. This letters matched, let's say, is going to go back to this point here and compare if the letters matched is equal to letters guessed. If it is, then we append it to candidates. Now the last item I'd given in the steps was that we want to make word list equal to candidates, and then we increment the number of guesses we've made so far by 1, and that's it. So this should be it, and I'll run this code. Yep, it works, and I'll just submit it as well. Yep, so that's pretty much it.